question that I come across or hear pretty frequently is usually something social media oriented, and people who know me, sorry, I was outside with my dog today, hair's a little frizzy. Those who know me or have an idea of me know that I post YouTube videos fairly frequently. I have an Instagram, or kind of had an Instagram audience from a couple viral moments. I've done blogging, I've done newsletters, I've done webinars, I've done email market, like I've done a lot of stuff. Do you need social media? No, I don't think you do if you feel like you have a stronger, or you have the potential to have a stronger physical audience somewhere in your local community, at your library, in a writing group, at a yoga class, in a pottery studio. Like I think that makes sense for more like brick and mortar type locations, just because you tend to be more dependent on the location. But if you're someone who works remotely, or you're service based, or you just feel the general pressure to be on social media because everyone's on social media, I don't think it hurts. Is it a necessity? No, not unless you have other means. And in my mind, the way that I kind of frame a couple hybrid options, where it's like you still make content, but you're not necessarily dependent on any algorithm in one platform, I would say that there are options out there. I categorize those as your newsletter, as your blog, free events that you maybe do, like anything where the power is kind of in your hands. That's kind of nice to have, and I do think everyone should have at least one of those, a newsletter or a blog. Those are just the first two that kind of come to mind, because it is a direct line of communication to those who are interested in what you have to do. You're not necessarily louder because you have a better video. You're not necessarily quieter because you had a worse piece of content. Either way, whatever you post is going to for sure get delivered to the people who are subscribed to you. I'm sorry, Barry is like going hog wild on one of his toys, and he's like cracking stuff, and he's teething. Now, when it comes to actual social media platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like LinkedIn, like TikTok, I don't know. It's where do I go? Where do I hang out? What do I do? Should I even be on those? Am I on the right platform? I hate making content, but I know that I need to be on social media. If you're curious about social media, either way, I was just telling someone about this. I have two criteria for myself that I'll kind of share with you. Where does your audience hang out at? And what do you like? Because if you kind of have those two things working in your favor, I feel like it's a little bit easier to just open the app at all. What about the difference between Instagram and like TikTok, for example? I think that's when it comes down to which do you like? I mean, which interface do you like? Which do you feel like is the most accessible, is the easiest to use? The thing about Barry is that he really likes cat toys. I don't know why, he just does. And it is a cat toy that he's chewing on anyway. And then you're like, okay, I'll try it and just see what happens. And let's say that you make a reel or you make a post or something and it just falls flat. You've spent hours maybe working on it, just fine-tuning the perfect language, playing around with the graphics, just trying to navigate Canva at all, if that's where you're making your posts on or something. And it's not getting any kind of response. Now, everyone's social media rhythm is kind of a little bit different, but I'll tell you how it's kind of shaked out for me over the years, just based on the patterns that I've seen with my own stuff. I've tried to be fairly consistent with whatever I've tried. Consistency to me meaning like a good handful of months, maybe like a good 3 months or something, like a quarter's worth. I've done that with webinars. I've done that with Instagram. I've done that with newsletters. I've done that with Instagram Reels and YouTube videos. Like I've tried a lot of stuff. And for me, it's always been a slow burn. I'm just going to use YouTube as an example, just because that's my primary platform now. That's where I feel like I get the most engagement and the most visibility, I guess. I recently posted a video about how to adequately price your stuff based on the value that you're providing, which I think is a pretty halfway decent video if I have to toot my own horn. I was writing out the outline, I was putting it all together, kind of making it accessible enough that anyone who came across it could hopefully understand it. And I was thinking, this stuff's pretty good. Like, this is some pretty good information. I would have loved to have this information earlier in my entrepreneurial journey. I posted it, and after a day, it was like 20 views. And then the next day it was like 25 views. And then the third day, maybe it was 35 views. But for me, I've just learned that after like a good 5 to 7 days is when I feel like I get a better idea of how well it's performing. And at least with YouTube, with Instagram, with whatever. And I know for a fact with YouTube, and the same sort of concept probably applies to other social media platforms, is that with YouTube, the algorithm is gonna push it out on its own to see how well it does. And I know that because it tells me how people find my video. It was on the discovery page. It was in my up next video. After watching one video, it was the one that got recommended. Oh, it was just on my YouTube homepage. Rarely do people find my stuff organically through like a Google search or something. I love it when that happens because it means that they're finding me organically, that they just typed in the right thing, my video happened to pop up, and I happened to be the one that they clicked on out of the tens or maybe hundreds or thousands that were out there, which is really cool. I really wish more of my stats were like that. And what's happening is YouTube is like, okay, this is new, let's see how well it does. It's like playing a new song on the radio to see how well it does. If it takes off and people start sharing it and commenting on it and liking it, those are kind of like those are like little tiny rewards, and that's feedback to the algorithm being like, yo, hey, this stuff is good, I'm sharing it, I'm talking about it, I'm liking it. Like those are all that's positive reinforcement for the algorithm, and it'll keep pushing it out. Otherwise, after, I don't know, X period of time, whatever that is for any social media algorithm, if nothing really happens or it falls flat or just kind of plateaus after a while, the algorithm is going to stop pushing it out actively. Same thing happens with books on Amazon. When you hit 10 reviews, you're going to get pushed out more versus if you get 50 reviews versus if you get 100 views. There's almost like mile markers or like checkpoints, you know? Oh my God, Barry. Oh my God. He just bit the side of this toy off. God, what are you, bionic? He needs to take a nap. Hold on a second. Sorry, I don't even know what I was saying. Oh yeah, the little like reward system or whatever for the algorithm. A lot of it is gonna be, in the beginning at least, until you figure out what works, is just trying out a lot of stuff. It feels like trying on 10,000 pairs of shoes until you find like one of the Cinderella ones that fits. The thing that they don't tell you about any kind of marketing, but especially digital marketing, is that it's gonna take a long time for you to figure out what works because there are so many people on that platform. It could be the same thing for a blog, really. I mean, anything that's kind of digital, any newsletter, any blog, any social media site, like any videos, reels, TikToks, whatever. I don't know who isn't on social media nowadays, so you have to figure out where's your audience. Do you like that platform? And also, the third one really that just kind of popped up with this is, what is it that's making you special? And I don't mean that in like a challenge kind of way, like who are you to be on here? But you do have to think about it that way. If you talk about investing, let's say, I don't know, there's a lot of other people that also talk about investing. What kind of investing? What's your style? What's your tone? What's your personality? What's your demographic that you go after? What kind of psychographics are you going after? Are you formal? Are you casual? Are you like jargon heavy? Are you like casual or formal register? Are you trendy? Are you black and white? Are you straightforward? Are you humorous? Like there's lots of, it's just, you're building your online personality. I like to think, like, until people get to know you, it's gonna take a while for people to get to know you and your style, especially if you're new at something like this. Either you're starting over, you're coming back after a hiatus, or you're just starting like completely new. It's gonna take a while to like introduce yourself, get people to resonate with you and who you are, and then kind of build traction from there. Like the thing about organic marketing is that it is a bit of a heavier lift because it requires so much consistency to see what works in the first place at all. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is that it's sustainable and that it lasts, because once people find you and they like you, they're gonna stick around. Versus something like paid ads or something that happens as quickly as TikTok or something, for example, is that, yeah, it happens really quickly. It's an easier lift. It maybe doesn't take as much work to get eyeballs on you because maybe, I don't know, the algorithm works differently. It's easier to discover new people, like, I don't know. But it's not sustainable because it happens so quickly. Anytime anything happens super quickly, how do you catch it? So if you're looking for like a next step, if you're like, okay, I understand that, what do I do with this information? These are things that I've done and that I've kind of played around with that have helped given me at least some direction. Whether or not it works, it depends person by person, but just if you want something to do, take this as a starting point. If you don't know who you're trying to access, like the type of person, and I've talked about this so often, but if you know who you're targeting, either the individual or the group or both, it's gonna fill in the blanks a lot better. Oh, where do I hang out on? What kind of stuff do I post? How often do I post? What do I talk about? What kind of hashtags do I use? So this is what I've done. I don't know if you like ChatGPT. I like ChatGPT. I like using it as a tool. It's not like my one-all be-all solution, but I do like to use it as a starting point. So this is what I've done. I'll think of like, I don't know, 2 or 3 people who are similar to me and what I do, either in delivery, in tone, in style, in product, in service, and whatever. Think of, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 of those. And then what you're going to say to ChatGPT is, who is the ideal reader profile buyer profile, client profile, member profile, subscriber profile, to artists like, books like, businesses like, insert the name of those 2 or 3 people or brands or businesses. Using that profile language is going to help give you a response that offers demographics and psychographics. And demographics is like the who, the where, the what, the age range, the education level. Psychographics are more of like the softer characteristics of like buyer patterns, behaviors, motivations, goals, expectations, mindsets. And I really like having a balance of like the quantitative and qualitative because I feel like it gives me a better idea of the kind of person that I'm targeting. And then use that information to do anything with it. Okay, based on that type of profile, what kind of things are they Googling when they have a problem with X? What kind of content are they looking for if they're wanting to learn more about Y? Plug that stuff into your website, plug that stuff into your captions, use it as hashtags, include them in your blogs. Whatever it is that you do, like you can use a lot of that stuff and just get super creative with it, plaster it anywhere that you want, because what's going to happen is you're going to start building out your SEO. So when people are searching for content like yours, those keywords and key phrases are going to be associated with your name or your brand the more often that you use them. So if you were to search Lauren Erickson marketing, for example, most likely you'll get one of my profiles that pops up on your Google, because there are so many different keywords and key phrases associated with my name that relate to marketing that it's easier for Google to be like, oh, okay, they most likely mean this Lauren Erickson, because there's a lot of, that's a fairly common name. It's a way to kind of help differentiate you, and the more frequently and consistently that you do that, you're building up your SEO, your search engine optimization. So that's like a crash course in SEO 101. So that's kind of like the organic side of things. And then you have like the algorithm side of things, where you just are trying on a lot of pairs of shoes to see what fits. This is where you're using those hashtags. This is where you're kind of playing around with trends. This is where you're using trending audio. This is where you're checking out other people's profiles that are similar to you and seeing what content they're making and getting ideas that way. This is where you're kind of maybe collaborating with some people. It's kind of like a balance. And do you need ads for all of that stuff? No, my personal approach is that I don't really think you need ads unless you are directing that attention towards something specific, some kind of campaign, some kind of specific offering, some kind of experience. If you're launching a book, if you have a new season of your podcast coming out, if you're hosting a retreat, if you've got like an in-person event happening or something like that, if you've got like a webinar or a workshop coming out, you have a special offer for a community that you built, like all of those things are very finite. And I think ads are a really great way to get fast payable attention onto those things. Doesn't mean that it's always going to convert. I haven't done too much with paid ads, but I haven't really gotten much of an ROI on ads. I briefly paid for Facebook ads, then I got some weird DMs from some older men, so my experience might be the exception. So that's the thing that they don't tell you about with social media, is that it takes a long time to figure out what the heck works, because it's so loud, it's so crowded. Like I said, everyone's on social media, so until you know what works, you're just playing around with a lot of different stuff. And then once you start kind of getting little crumbs of what's working here and there about, oh, this video got 10 views more than normal, this post had more impressions than normal, I have more green than red in my statistics. Like, you just work off of the very little indicators that you get that something is working. Because your audience is so freaking small, you're not going to get a big glowing neon sign saying, this is the one, this is going to make you go viral. Which, by the way, I've talked about virality, so check that out if you want. But if you're starting small, you're getting small results. So you have to be very tuned in to what's working, what's not working, what's green and what's red. You're spending a lot of hours on videos that aren't getting many viewers or many likes or many comments or shares. My advice to just save you time, if you're like seriously bootstrapping and you're trying to make everything that you do worth it because you need money, because you need clients, because you need something somewhere, you have very, very minimal risk that you're working with. So literally put something just good enough out there, see what you get, because if it's a dud, okay, you lost what, an hour or two of your time versus 5? I've said this before and I'll say it again, but my biggest indicator that YouTube was a potential platform for me was when I was uploading all of the reels that I was making on Instagram super, super passively to YouTube. I mean, I think I was captioning it like whatever the first sentence that I said was, like that was the title of it. If it cut off, it cut off. I didn't do hashtags. I didn't do any of that. I just dumped it all onto YouTube. Wasn't checking comments, wasn't checking likes, wasn't checking stats. Like, I was just doing that very passively just because because it took another extra 2 minutes compared to, you know, in addition to publishing it on Instagram. And then I found, like, after a couple months, I think I went from like 100 to like 200, and then 200 to 300, and then 300 to 400. And after, like, I don't know, a good 6 to 8 months, I think I popped back on and I was like, oh wow, I've got like 300 people on here compared to like the 100 or something that I started out with. And then that was my little clue where I was like, I wonder what would happen if I did long form content. And I kind of leaned into this because a lot of the stuff that I was posting was like book humor related or lip syncing to like funny audio. So then I kind of took that as an indicator to talk more about what people don't know about book marketing and book publishing. If you are into that stuff, you should check out my older videos. I don't talk about it anymore. I'm kind of more of like the bigger vision now and like brand marketing. But that was a really, and like I didn't know of anyone else that talked about that kind of thing on YouTube. So that was kind of like my little niche corner of the internet that I kind of carved out for myself, and I was able to attract more of a niche following, which is good. Niche is good. And in the digital media landscape, like the word niche is a power word. And if you're curious about YouTube, I'll tell you that I've found that people tend to log on for one of two reasons, sometimes both. They either want to be educated on something or they want to be entertained about something. I like educating. For me, that's fun. I love working with curious people, curious, open-minded, constructive, hardworking people who are committed to the vision that they have. That's really, really fun for me. So those are just some things to kind of get you thinking. Take it as confirmation. Take it, like, if you have questions, drop them down below. But if there's anything else that you're wondering about when it comes to social media, like, I'm not perfect, but I've had a couple pretty, decent good moments. So I've kind of learned a thing or two. And if you want to poke my brain around it, drop your thoughts below. Otherwise, if you're into this kind of thing, you might want to consider subscribing if you aren't already. Otherwise, if you are, you might want to sign up for my newsletter. I talk about very similar content with just more of a bit of a different kind of twist to it. It's more business oriented if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, if you're wanting to go for a deeper experience, you're like, yes, this is my person. I want all of the stuff she has to offer. Firstly, thank you. Secondly, you would really, really benefit from this community that I very recently launched. I'm playing around with it, trying it out, seeing what kind of demand. I'm testing it out. This is another shoe that I'm trying on. If you're not super sure whether or not you want to do it, there is a free trial option for 1 week, so you can test it out, get the goods, and dip out if it's not the thing for you. But otherwise, I'm just happy to have you in the room. Welcome if this is your first time. Otherwise, for you recurring watchers, I hope this was just as valuable as the other videos. Anyway, that's all I got. I got a call coming up. Bye.